Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. Uh, this is the next question in our AEM interview preparation series. So the question is, what is Sling model? How do you implement it? And explain all the annotations used in Sling models. So interview can ask you about specific annotations, but I have covered all the annotations in this video, and it will cover almost all the Sling model questions. I have I have tried like this. So let's start. The ideal answer should be like this. So Sling models are annotation driven POJOs, that is plain old Java object classes that facilitates the mapping of data from JCR to Java variables. The Sling model can be used to map the resources or request objects. They also allow to map the resource properties and inject OSGi services. The out of the box support resource properties via value map, Sling bindings, OSGi services, request attributes. Easily work with other Sling models without changing to bundles. The @model annotation is to be declared on top of the class so that we can transform the POJO class into a Sling model. This @model annotation marks the class as Sling model and must be present on the class. This annotation can have different attributes. The main attributes like are the adaptables. These attributes specify the type from which the model can be adapted. It can be Sling HTTP servlet request dot class or resource dot class. Like these two adaptables are used in the Sling model. You can use any one, both based on your business requirement. To adapt the Sling model as a request, we wish to use the global objects that AEM exposes, such as request, page property, session, and many more. Using the Sling HTTP servlet request dot class, we can satisfy this need. This allows the model to be adapted from an HTTP request. The data stored inside the JCR and the content are resource. For adapting that data, we can use the resource.class. This allows the model to be adapted directly from a JCR resource. Then the next attribute is adapters. These adapters attribute specify the interface or classes that this model will be adapted to. If you are using like interface and implementation class approach, adapter will be the interface name dot class. Then the next attributes for @model annotation is at resource type. This attribute specifies the resource types that this model supports. The next attribute for @model annotation is default injection strategy. This attribute defines how Sling model handles the injection when a value is not found. Alright. Sorry for this. The The default injection strategy dot optional means that if a value is not available for injection, it will be set to null instead of throwing an error. This is useful to avoid runtime exceptions when some properties are not present in the resource. For all AEM components, regardless of complexity, Sling models are advised. Additionally, it reduces the development time during both original creation and continuing maintenance when the developers build for the best practices. Okay, now we will be seeing what all the annotations used in Sling models. So we'll go through like one by one. The @inject annotation. So this is the more general and flexible annotation. It can be used to inject various types of objects, including OSGi services, request attributes, resource properties, etc. Service and other dependencies that are not directly connected to material being mapped but are required for the Sling model to operate correctly are usually injected using the @inject annotation. You must take care to make sure that the right kind of object is injected into the Sling model, because @inject annotation does not offer type safety for the injected dependency, and by default @inject of fields are optional. If the value is not available, the field will be null unless explicitly marked as required. @inject annotation is also used for dependency injection. The next annotation is @ValueMapValue. The @ValueMapValue annotation is more specific. It is used to inject the properties directly from the resources. It is useful when you need to map the resources properties to model fields directly. It supports default values if the property is not present in the value map. It automatically converts the property to the field's type if necessary. @ValueMapValue annotation provides type safety since you can specify the type of the Java field that is being mapped to the JCR property. Now, if the interviewer asks you to compare the @inject and @valuemap annotation, you can simply say we will use @inject annotation when injecting OSGi services, when we need more flexibility in the source of injection, example request attribute resources all over Sling models, or when using custom injectors. And we will use value map value annotation when we directly injecting properties from the value map of a resource, when you want automatic default values or type conversion for resource properties, and when you want to clearly express that the field should be populated from the value map. This is the difference between the use cases of inject and value map annotations. The next important annotation is @named annotation. This annotation is used to specify the name of the property in the content tree that should be mapped to the annotated field. The @named is particularly useful when the field name in the model does not match the property name in the source, or when you want to inject a specific value from a multi-field or a map. When you need to inject specific values based on custom name, example, we want to fetch the property value whose name is JCR colon last modified by from a JCR, and our variable name is string last modified user. In this case, for this string last modified user variable, we can add two annotations: @value and @named with the string property name JCR last modified by. Then next important annotation is @default. @default annotation is used to specify default value for fields in Sling models when the actual value is not present or cannot be resolved. It null pointer exceptions are avoided and the models are strengthened and depend on the ensuring that the model fields have reasonably default values. Using @default provides default values. @default annotation is commonly used in conjunction with other Sling model annotation like @valueMapValue or @inject, etc. Like for both @valueMapValue and @inject, we can use @default. The next important annotation in the Sling model is @self. @self annotation is used in Sling models to inject the adaptables object itself into a model. This is particularly useful when you need direct access to the original resource, request, or other adaptables objects from which the model is created. It provides direct access to the original adaptable object, enabling additional operations or property retrievals. @self injects the adaptable resources object into the resource field. This allows the model to access the resource directly for additional operations or property retrieval that are not mapped to specific fields. For example, it is used in Sling delegation pattern. Like it's an another use case used in Sling delegation pattern. Like at that itself, for example, we are inheriting the title components model. So in our custom implementation of title model, we can use for the title interface instance, we can use at the itself and via type equal to sling resource super type dot class. Next important annotation in the Sling model is at the rate via. At the rate via annotation is used to specify an alternative path or mechanism to access a value when the requested value may be accessible through author, another resource or object, but it is not directly available on the adaptable. This is useful. The common use cases for at the rate via annotation is accessing a child resource when a value is available in the child resource rather than the current resource. Another use case is accessing a parent resource and access when the value is available in a parent resource. Another use case is accessing a different model when the value is part of a different Sling model or object. It enhances the flexibility of Sling model by allowing access to values not directly available in the adaptable. Next important annotation is at the rate post construct. At the rate post construct annotation used to mark the method in a Sling model that should be executed after the model's dependencies have been injected and the model has been fully initiated. In order to fully further initialize activities that might be required, such as processing or modifying inserted variables, this function acts as a callback. The method annotated using at the rate post construct must be void and take no arguments. This allows for additional setup, validation, or processing that depends on injected values. If we talk about benefits of post construct, it is complex initialization. It can that task required injected values. We can use the post construct annotation method. Another is validation, like to validate the injected values and set the default values if necessary. Another benefit can be a transformation, like transform or process the injected values to prepare them for use in the component. The next important annotation is at the rate OSGi service. At the rate OSGi service annotation is used to inject OSGi services directly into a Sling model. The Sling model API provides annotations which makes it easier to access OSGi services and let you take the full advantage of OSGi service registry inside your Sling model. The benefit of at the rate OSGi service annotation are the simplicities, like simplified service injection, then automatic dependency management, clean and readable code. Next important annotation in the Sling model is at the rate Sling object. The at the rate Sling object annotation is used to inject common Sling objects directly into a model. This annotation is provided by the Sling model API and it simplifies the injection of frequently used objects like resource, Sling HTTP servlet request, Sling HTTP servlet response, resource resolver, etc. Commonly injected objects with at the rate Sling objects are resource, resource resolver, Sling HTTP servlet request, Sling HTTP servlet response, and Sling script helper. These are nothing but the current, like the resource being adapted, the it represent current request or current responses. The benefit of Sling object is to conventional injection. It simplifies the injection of common Sling object, reducing the boilerplate code. Enhanced readability makes the model more readable and maintainable by clearly showing the dependencies. It has direct access. It provides the direct access to commonly used object without manual retrieval. The next important annotation is Script variable. Script variable annotation in AEM is used in Sling model to inject the values from the script context, such as current page, resource, request, etc. These values are often available in the HTML slightly context, but not directly available through JCR properties or OSG services. For example, current page, current resource, current request, current session, etc. By default, the injection is optional, and if the variable is not available, the field will be null. Common script variable injections can be the page, which is nothing but current page, the resource, which represents current resource, Sling HTTP servlet request represents the current request, Sling HTTP servlet response represents the current response, value map represents the current resource, Sling script helper, it provide access to various AEM services, a resource resolver provide access to the resources in the JCR. The next important annotation in the Sling model is @child resource. The @child resource of the a child resource of a current resource can be immediately injected into the model using this annotation. This annotation offers a handy way to traverse and work with the content hierarchy within your Sling model, making it easier to access and deal with child resources. It allows specifying the path relative to the current resource to identify the child resource. This can inject single resource or collection. Like there are main, okay, sorry for this. If we talk about the benefit of the child resource annotation, simplified access, flexible injection, and clean code. Then the next important annotation used in Sling model is @resource path. @resource path annotation is used to inject resources based on a given path. This annotation is useful when you need to work with resources that are not directly part of current request or current resources. It allows you to inject resources from any location in the JCR repository. In the @resource path annotation, we have to mention the attribute path equal to the actual path of the resource. If we talk about benefits of resource path, like it's the same like remote accessing the remote resources, flexible and dynamic and simplified code. And the last annotation which is used in the Sling model, it is the @request attribute. @request attribute annotation is used for the request attributes. Request attributes are the data that are passed along with the HTTP request. And this annotation allows you to access these attributes directly within your model. This is particularly used when you need to process or utilize data that is provided dynamically during the request. Its benefits are the same, like simplified access, then it enables dynamic data, like dynamically we can utilize the request variables, and clean code. The request attributes, as we can say, like it injects we can pass the request attribute while calling the Sling model in the sightly use, and the same we can get in the our Sling model using @request attribute annotation. I hope you found this video interesting and informative. Please share with your friends to spread the knowledge. Like, share and subscribe this video. That will help me to create more videos like this. Yeah, bye for now.